Hi guys, coming around to your side. How are you today? Hopefully you guys found me okay. And I do not see the chats, and I got to go back and fix that. It's always fun when I do this by myself. Okay. Hi Thelma. Hi Irene. How are you? Hi Glenn. Okie dokie, guys. I love this lovely little card set, and it just turned out so sweet and so cute. So I know that we've kind of shown it before, but we're going to be making our book today from Storybook Woods, and I will tell you that the rest of the program, the rest of their items are just as beautiful. So their luxury kit and the inserts, everything is just really pretty and so very sweet. And we're going to be able to look at some of those pieces throughout. But I've made this little book, and as you read, we pull. There you go. And then it's really simple. It just tucks right back in. And if it doesn't tuck back in immediately, just kind of shift it a little bit as you're pushing it in, and it goes right back into place. I noticed that Debbie was kind of having a little bit of trouble with it last Saturday. So it should be pretty easy to close. So let's take a look at what's in your kit. It seems really simplistic, but it's amazing how much you can do with this. So let me see here, and I'm going to have to go grab a scoreboard and a paper trimmer here really quick, but let me show you these pieces first. So in your kit, you have the Prima flowers that are the natural flowers, and you have 24 of the little book pages. They're all in here, and you'll have more left over, so don't think that you're just getting enough for this. You can actually make probably about another, I'm going to say about 6 or 7 cards would be my guess. You have a light piece of craft paper, and it's just fairly thin, but we need to keep it light. Oh, thank you guys. I feel like it's just a disaster zone today because I've been downstairs digging through stuff on the floor, up and down. Been busy, but thank you for the compliments. So this is the paper that's coming to you. It's Gold Blossom from Craft Perfect. You're getting an entire pack of that. And that's what's in the kit. We wanted to make sure that we gave you everything that you would need, but then you can also take the time to use your own embellishments. When I made this book, I was making the book based on the fact that I was making it for Lily, who still pulls things off and sometimes might not be very gentle, you know, things like that. And so I didn't put a lot of extras. But I would recommend that I think that it will be really pretty if we put some corners on these little pages. I think it will really make it just seem richer, because literally this is taking the page that's already there and putting it on the picture. So we're going to run through that and the picture part. I'm going to give you guys a closer up look at each of the pictures. But in order for me to get as many kits out there as we had of this paper, I'm going to have to do mine in a different color. So we have some of this. If you love that paper, it's the last that we have are in the kits. So if you really like having this gold paper over having something else, then you'll definitely want to get the kit. We do have 2 of the Storybook Woods little books left, or you can make wonderful pictures with the luxury kit as well. It's beautiful. Emma has decided that that's what she would like her book to be in, and she wanted to help me make it. So we have set that project aside for a little bit later, and we'll see what happens. And hopefully I'll be able to show you sooner than later. So I have silver. You have gold. And you will want to grab, if you're making it with me today, you'll want to grab some papers that just kind of match and meld with the book. So I took these on just because they had the peaches, they had a little bit of the grays from the woods and the logs, and it seemed to really complement the pictures. So I pulled some out of one of my paper pads because everybody's got one of those paper pads at home, right? So we will want to make sure that we use it that way. And let's see, I think we can get started. Anybody have any questions? Questions, anybody? Okay, so I am going to grab the trimmer and the scoreboard, and I will zoom in, and then we will be ready to go. So here we go. Pardon me, because we have my puppies that just got dropped off by my husband, and then he went to go get Bob. So we were double tagging it here, and so he had to pop the doggies in the back end because we were afraid they would make it difficult. Okay, scoreboard, trimmer, and I think we are ready to go. Can everybody see that okay? I'm sure that they can, but I do like to ask. Okay. So I believe that you may not know it, but you have, or you may. There's lots of you that know it. Actually, I want to take that back. You guys may recall, you may not recall, that we did a waterfall card one year. It's when we did the Tiggly Wigglies, and it was just this tiny little card. And so when I came up with this idea, it reminded me that we had done this before, but this is on a bigger scale. And so anyways, we'll have to see how we do this today. Okay, so what you're going to do first in your piece of really thin craft paper that is in your kit, you're going to take and mark it for 5.5. And you are going to run it down. Zip it on down. And I've already did that very first one, that first line. And then from there, you're going to want to make them all the rest at 1/2 inch. And there are 6 pages. So we're just going to want to do, I'm going to make sure that I don't go over the rim. So first one is here, 1 at 1/2 inch. Two at 1/2 inch. They're really noisy, aren't they? Maybe you can't hear them. That would be good. I'd like to hear that you can't hear them. And normally we fold it backwards to hide the fat, but it's a lot harder to do that while you're trimming and keep your, or not trimming, but you're scoring and keep it out of the way. And you won't see this binding inside your book at all. It's all completely hidden. So okay. And then that gives me the outer fold. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to need 6 of these total, I believe. If I remember it correctly, we're going to need 6 of these total. I might have to rerun through it. So each one of these counts as a page. So each one that you see. Might just be 5. You know, you should really remind me, guys, to write down the directions before I ever stop. And I haven't made this since over 2 weeks ago. And I realized as I came to sit down today that I don't necessarily remember. So let's take a peek. This page doesn't count. This is our first page that's connected to the book. So it's connected to this paper. So we have 1, we have 2, we have 3. Haha. Looks like we have 5. Just put one in for good measure. Let's do 5. You might find at the end of this that we don't need all 5, and then you can cut one out of your book as you find it. The other thing that I did, so that's the scoring. We have now got the base for our book. Nope, that's not true. I have to score these. So we're going to need to make one as your front page. And I recall right, these are a little bit wider. This paper was 11, and this paper is 11.5 because it's using our regular system. So that's part of the reason why you can see that the border for here is different. It's because I had to start cutting down the pages to the right size. And then the outer part of the book is the full gold page. Now, if you want and you want to save your paper, because I made mine on the back too, I just folded this first piece that we're going to use in half. And so it's, if you want to just put it on to something else, you can use a piece of craft paper of your own from home that's a little bit thicker than what this thinner piece is. And you can use that as your outside piece, and then you can just put the cover on the front and leave it plain in the back. And then you'd have an extra piece or two of paper, because I think you end up with using up all but half a page. So if you did do that, you would have a second half a page. So you would have a whole page left over, I think. So we'll find out as we go. But I'm pretty positive that was the case. So since this is 11.5, we're going to mark it at 5 3/4. And hopefully nope, I moved. It moved, I moved, something moved. Yep, right there. That's okay. We can fix it. Feel like Bob the Builder. I had a lot of Bob the Builder over the years working with kids, and it was a great way to say, we can do more than we think we can do. Okay, this one we are going to hide the fat. And as it stands, I still got it a little crooked. So I'm going to do it one more time. But 5 3/4 should be right on target. Okay. Half the page. Half the page. That's the simplest part. Okay, so from here, I'm going to just open it up, and we're going to start cutting all of our pieces. I put all the pieces together and glued them to this after I made everything else, because it does get kind of snug in here, as you're trying to put things together. So instead, I took the time to make sure that I had at least done a couple of the pages ahead of time. So, but I think that in this particular case, we're going to have to make it and then do it. And the reason why is because we've got back pages, and it'll just be so confusing for me to say, use this one with this one. Sorry, we can hear them, but it's okay. I don't know what that means. Oh, the doggies. Yes, well, thank you. I think that they have finally given up, or my husband and Bob just came home. Home. Debbie's home, not my home. Debbie's home. Okay, so let's go to the far back section of the book. And the first one that we are going to cut is, let me measure this here for you. Is 3.5, and then we have one that's 3.25. That's going to be this piece, I believe. Let me just double check here. No, I'm glad that I double checked. Oh, it is. It's still 3.75. Okay, so it's 3.75. This is 3.5. So the back portion of this, so here we are on the back. The back portion of this should be 3.75. So let's see if I did it the right way. 3.5. Okay, so I need to go up and behind this one. So in the middle of your page right here, you're going to put on your 3.75 onto this page. So I made one extra that I didn't need to. I kind of thought that that was the case. So we're going to cut one at 3.75. You want to keep the width the same. Which is nice. And now that I did the top, I don't think that I still need the scoreboard, but I'm going to keep it handy and near me. So 3.75. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and put that right on there. Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. We want to make this a little bit smaller than the binding, the whole thing. So I just took it in half and I cut it with like about, if I recall right, it was about 1/2 inch. Let me double check and see. Because I needed 1/4 on each side, I felt, for some of the pieces. So I made it at 3/4. So let's go to the 3/4 mark. Or half inch mark. Sorry. 1/2 inch we go. Okay, and that will give us the ability to put this little guy in and put him right there at the bottom. So when we're attaching it, it should look like this. Okay. And it looks like I'll still need to trim a little bit, but as you can see, all of it goes inside. So it's okay if you have one that is longer. We can always cut it off once we attach it. And I am using Eileen's. I started with finger lift tape because I thought that would be easy. But what I found was with all the foil that was on it and the amount of movement that it was going to need, I made the decision after, doing about 2 pages that it needed to really. Trying to get the glue to drop down. Or not. Usually I bring my own glue because I have it all ready and I know that it's full. And I didn't know if hers was full or not. So we may be spending some time squeezing glue out of the bottle today. Maybe I can find another one that has a little bit more goo in it. Just a minute. Sorry, guys. Should have had that prepped. Okay. Well, when all else fails, grab 3 different bottles of it, and one of them's bound to work, right? I sure hope so. Oh, he heard me. That's my baby outside. I think he might have seen me when I went to get the glue. Okay, here we go. Okay, here's one piece. And I'm going to go up and over into the second row, okay, guys? So that's something that you're going to have to remember is it's the second row of the spine, because we're going to set the other one right on top of it. It's amazing how close it starts happening to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this one off. Okay, so what this one is at this point is my pull-out piece. No, this is my bottom page right here. This is my pull-out piece here. So that is also the same length. And yeah. Let's make it 3 3/4 as well. Actually, I think I'm just going to cut it at 4 just to be safe. So this one will go on the inside, and we'll do this one last, but it goes here. This is your first page. Okay. All right, so your next page, so we have just laid this page right here. Our next page, we're going to use a different kind of paper with this one. And so we're going to just keep working on our pages first, and we'll come back and put that backing paper on these. Okay, so here's our next turn of the page is what I should say. So this should be up on the next level. Let me just make sure that that is going to be completely correct. Okay, I have the big one, 1, 2, 3 pages that you turn. So 1, 2, 3 pages that I turn. 1, 2, nope, there was one hiding. 4 pages that I turn. Okay, so we're going to put this one bottom one sits right there. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I do have it right. Okay, got a little nervous there for a second. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm going to line it up with that little bit of spine that's going to bend it into place and cause the page to turn as you pull it. So it's just little tiny, but the way that it was set up that I was able to find is that it helps kind of keep that other piece in place where it belongs. And since that's your pull, I think that it helps make it a little bit stronger. How wide is the bottom page? It's as wide as the actual paper. So it's a little bit longer when you glue it on. And then I just trimmed off that little tiny bit that comes off of one of the sides. You just line it up the same way. And it's going to be each page. So this page is going to be this. And then I'll cut this one off. If you're talking about how wide this way, that's the 3 3/4 that we were talking about. Where we cut it. I think I have the wrong, I grabbed the wrong one. Hey, that would be helpful, isn't it? Okay, there we go. Sorry, grabbed the wrong one because this one's the 4-inch one that we cut. Okay, let's do this. Now this only goes right up at the top where the spine is. That bottom one stays where it's at because that's the end of the book. And so it just stays. See, this one doesn't move because we're going to glue our other piece to it. So this one doesn't move. You can't flip this one. But this one is our first flip. And so you don't want to put any extra glue on that's going to go past or beyond your little tiny bit. So go ahead, put it on down. I will tell you right now that when I did this, it takes a little bit to dry. So we may have to kind of be a little bit tighter with our pieces. I don't know. Let's see. We may run out of time for all of our pieces to dry, which is okay. I just may have to glue pieces back together as we go. Cut off your extra. And if you notice, when I turn these pages, they all end up going to the same spot. So you will find that with each of these pages, our height now changes to So it looks, it's smaller and smaller, but the pages themselves will grow to be thicker and thicker in the book. So what you want to do is when you make these, you're going to want to count them based on how wide it is from your next spot, from this to this, and it should join to the book at the very end. So if you take this, let me close it on up again, all of your pieces should fit all together like this is its own separate book, like this. So with each one of these, it's going to be easier to figure out how you need to cut it based on where it is sitting. So this one won't work for that, so I have to set it to the side. But the next one, I can then glue it onto here and then pull it all the way open and trim that just like this after I've glued it, on. Does that make sense, guys? So I'm going to take it, I'm going to cut it, which the easiest way to figure that out is I don't want to cut it any bigger than this rib and the bottom of the page. So this one is at 4.5. Yep, perfect. Covers the page. And then you can always trim up because there will be these spots that may not equal out exactly the same, but that's okay because we can just put it in the trimmer or use our scissors and trim the pages back a little bit. Hi, hun.
Hi, I brought you a drink.
Oh, thank you. That's usually what happens when we talk through these. You get a little thirsty.
Yep.
Okay, so how did it go with Bob?
Bob's drinking his shake. He's happy.
He's happy. So we realized that I'm here on camera and he doesn't know James as well because I'm here all the time and James isn't. So I said, well, what are we going to do? We might have to use a few tactics on how to get him into the car. So I said, just tell him you're going to go for a shake and we're going to go see Teddy. And I think that should do the trick.
And it did.
And it did. Great.
Do you have room for this?
Maybe right there.
It's Dr. Pepper vanilla.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have to sleep tonight.
Ah, you don't.
Yeah, I do. I'll get orders wrong if I don't. So
well, hi to everybody.
that is my lovely husband. So the next one is 5 inches long. There is a method to the madness here. 5 inches. So 5 inches, and we're going to glue that at the next rib. Should have done one of those magics of television, right? And made one up that was completely dry. I didn't think of that. Although I'm not allowed to use that comment. I can't say the magic of television. So it would be by the power of Margie, I guess. Debbie hates that term. So I have to tease her just a little bit. Yes, Roberta, hello. I'll have to tell them hi, husband, because I hadn't looked up. I was focused on what I was doing. Okay, so we've got that one, and now we're going to take and we're going to measure again at the rib. And we are at 5.5, which would make total sense because we are marking these at 1/2-inch markers, but it's just helping keep me on task, which is important. Okay, so 5.5 it is. And then I'm going to set this aside a little bit and let it dry as much as we can make it dry. Hopefully it will work for us and do its part. Of course it wasn't. Even I just got started and it already says, I don't want to stay where you put me. Okay. I wouldn't cut any of your edges. I cut the one I wanted to show you what it looked like, but I wouldn't cut any of these edges until you get to the point that it's dry. I would also say that that if you want to, you can cut off each page and measure those out. I just gave it some wiggle room just in case I had to slide it one direction or the other. So that is what I did. Alrighty. So we have silver pieces that gold pieces that we have to cut for each one of our pages. So we have our first page here. And then we have our next page and our next page. These are already put on and glued on. So we've gotten all of these gold ones completed. This is what we've just done with all of that. So what we need to do, though, is now cut for the inside of our cover book. And we also have to cut our little pieces that are behind our story. So that is what comes next. So what I tried to do with all of them is just make 1/4 of an inch around the whole thing. And that seemed to work pretty well. So let's see how much I measured this one at. I had it written down. I actually got that far ahead. So page 1 is this page, and it is 7 3/4 by 5.5. So let's see if I have enough here. I'm sitting, it looks like, right at nope, not at 7.5. So this one's going to have to be one of our extra pieces. And these have to be our extra pieces. I actually was so frugal with it, I had it all figured out as to how I could get as many pieces without interrupting the last page. And while I'm here, there's no way. But you can figure out exactly where everything can go and measure it out fairly simply and go, okay, if I take my my page and I measure it and divide it by how much something is, you can add each page in together because they're in 1/2-inch increments. So you can very easily cut page 1 with page 7, and they'll fit quite nicely together. So this is at 7.5. Sorry guys, I'm rechecking my measurements because something doesn't sound right. I think that I wrote something down wrong in my notes. I think it's not 7.5. Hopefully you haven't cut yet. It is a little over 7.75 by 5.5. So 7.75 is the width. 5.5 is what we're actually going to cut off and put on the page. So I'm glad that I double checked that. And that might mean that this one will now work. Yes, it will. Sorry, I'm so used to the length being what you pay attention to, but in this case, it's not. It wants to pay attention to the height of your card. So what we're cutting for is 5.5, and then our length is 7.75. Move that out a little bit. So we're going to cut something off here because we want it to go inside and look really nice in our little section right there. So 7.75, just a tiny bit off from 7.75. And it might be as much as 7 7/8. So I'm going to start there and see if it looks good. And if it doesn't look good, then I'll cut off another 1/8 of an inch. But I bet you that it will fit very nicely in there. Yep. So 7 7/8 will go in this page. Now here, you get to use lots of glue. You want this to stick because this is going to be the one that you probably touch the most frequently along with the pool. The others, you're not going to hardly touch them because they're all connected to that waterfall pool. So you're not touching them at all, so that they shouldn't wear out. However, we do open the book. And what you're wanting to do is don't worry if you've got a little bit extra down in here. You won't see that because the book sits in here. In fact, you kind of wanted to make sure that it got a little bit further down. But just use that 1/4 of an edge guideline all the way around like you would with a card when you're adding on your Miri. And you'll get the same type of thing. So that's the inside first page of our book. And then we have our others quite nicely sitting right here waiting to dry. So I'm going to make that go over here for a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is these are the ones that I have. You can go through and choose whatever you want. I happen to have these extra pages in one of my paper pads. It looks good with the colors, and it had some gray and teal birds on it, and I thought, oh, how pretty. And so that is what I'm going with. So let's see. So our first page, look at that. The first page is birds. So you don't see a lot of them. There isn't tons. So I did trade out a page that had gold pieces on it just because I was making a silver one. So you won't see the exact same on the next little bit. Okay. So the next page, we will need to cut, will be page 3. And that is 4 7/8 by the 7 7/8. So four 7/8. 7 7/8. And just keep in mind, you're going to be making each one just a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller. So really close to that 7/8 mark. Okay. So I'm just going to pull my little book right over here, and I'm going to still let it dry, but I'm sliding these in so that I can keep track of where each one goes and I don't lose it. So there's one. Okay, then our next one is my piece that I made that had gold actually in the cardstock, and with making a silver one this time, I chose not to go with any gold pages. So I'm just going to move on to doing a different color. So page 5, which is the next one that we're cutting, is, call it page 5, but anyways, it's you're going to cut it at 7, let's see, 7 1/2. So the last one was 7 7/8, and excuse me, 4 7/8, and this one is 4 1/2. And I've got a little border there that I'm going to tear off, so I'm going to make it 5, just to confuse you a little bit, but it's 4 1/2. And then we want to do the same thing with the 7 7/8. And what I'll do, guys, is that I will, because this has a lot to do with cutting these, just so as I go through after class this evening, I will put it in the class portion how much the each measurement should be, so that you've got it somewhere to know that this is what you're going to need. So I'm not going to put it on the store. I'm going to put it on the bottom of the YouTube comments, and it will be under my name instead of Debbie's, because that's how I can do it on my phone. So then that way, maybe it will be easier to make sure that you've got the cuts and the right measurements. So lifting up to the next page, putting that piece in. So now I am on the next one, which is 3 3/4. Three 3/4. By 7 7/8. And then our last page, what do we have here? So we've got the birds, the green, the gray, the pink. So we're just to the last one, and I didn't have a chance to write down this measurement yet, but I bet you it's going to be half of the next one. So Yeah, 3 1/4. I cut it a little closer in my book example. Doesn't quite have a quarter edge, but since I have the opportunity to fix it, we will do it. So 3 1/4. Seven 7/8. Then that goes in our last page. Okay. So there we go with all of our background pieces that we'll need for our book. We're just going to keep letting it sit there, so hopefully it will dry. And we're going to go through and look at our little booklet that comes with all of these, and then put those in order as well. So then that way it's easy to kind of just drop down. Now you can totally change this around any way you want. Because I had a lot of side pieces, because I had a lot of horizontal pieces, I felt like the vertical pieces, I could, some of these didn't work as well for me as far as pictures go, or I needed to figure out how to do it differently. So I went ahead and I made mine horizontal, but you can go through. This is part of the reason is because all the stories are on the horizontal line. But if you're using the Storybook luxury kit, those have a lot of upright and vertical pages. So let's go through and figure out what we're going to do. But I will say you can put your animals wherever you want them. So if you don't want to start with the fox, you don't have to start with the fox. I started with the fox because one of the things that I do need to say is that there are 2 stories about the bear. So between the 2 stories, you're going to find that you'll want to separate them somehow. So I have a fox and then a bear and then a bunny and then a bear and then my last page. So, which I have the little deer because they kind of get 2 pages worth of story on that back page. Okie dokie. So let's get started with these. So I just want to show you some of these while I'm going through them because they are so cute. And you get all of these in the kit. So you get one set of all of them. So here's our little bunny and our little fox. And so as you can see, we're going to be able to make quite a bit of cards while we're at it. Let me check. I think that I used one of the bears somewhere. Nope, this is also going to be a vertical page for you. There's a little fox and a swing. I'm going to set out any of my background papers for there we go. Here's our one for the front of our book. So that one goes first. I'm going to set out any of my story and any of my backgrounds, and I'm going to put all my cutout pieces right through here. Why, might you ask? Well, because. Is that good enough? Because. Let's see. For this one, I had to kind of rework a couple of things. So I want to make sure that I show you how I did that. So I need this one as a background piece. So I'm going to put it up here with my backgrounds. And then I have this little one that goes here. So that's one of my pages of of actual animals. So here I have that one. There's another vertical one for you. We'll need this one as one of the pages in the book. We'll need some bunny rabbits by the bridge. There we go. We'll need the bear in his hammock. Here's another background piece. And then we have our little fox. So this one and the story go in the first 2 pages. So, but I thought that it would be fun to read our story while we do it. So let me start us off by saying our first page is going to be of our fox, and the story is: the bluebird called out to the running fox down below, "Instead of going so fast, why not try going slow?" Taking heed, the fox walked through the trees and into the wood, and it was during this wonder that he now understood. Feeling grass on his paws, he said with a smile, "I really should slow down every once in a while." For while speeding through life, all he'd seen was a blur, but the fox now saw the flowers and beauty everywhere. So that's our page 1 and our page 2. So I'm going to add them into the inside of my pages. Oops, just here like this. My next page, I have my bear in the hammock. And I have, so I'm going to put him right here in my book. So there's my bear. I'm going to need this for the top, and then I need his story. Settling in a hammock, the bear looked up to the cloud, then let out a sigh. I should have left it for you to see. Take a peek at him. Isn't he adorable? Okay. Settling in a hammock, the bear looked up to the cloud, then let out a sigh and uttered aloud, "This is the life, oh what a treat, a day just for me, how very sweet." Emma's pretty positive that she has days that are just for her. And I think that that's great. She'll say, "I think that today I want to." So bless her heart. She's really good at saying when she needs something. Okay, here's our little bunnies. They look like that. Set that one down. And it says, the butterfly stopped in amazement and awe, for she simply could not believe what she saw. A rabbit in flight with nary a wing. What is this magical thing called a swing? Now, with the little birdie flowers, a lot of them you can get these little butterflies, and I thought that it would be fun to decorate up a couple butterflies in here. However, I forgot that part of the plan, but I do have a different way that we can put out a little butterfly. Or you can just wait and put on the little birdie flowers and butterflies that we have, because let me tell you, it's pretty amazing. I'm seeing that it's trying to complain at me. Okay. Got the glue a little bit too far up here. See that? Okay, good to know. Alrighty, so we're going to take, those are the 2 bunnies. And now we have the little bears at the house. Let me find them. Here's our little bear. and our little bear up above in the tree. And their story is, "What's there in that tree? Well, what a surprise!" Butterfly could barely believe what she saw with her eyes. A large branch shook and leaves flew all around as a bear clambered along, averting their gaze from the ground. A second bear stood at the foot of the tree, whom berries were dropped to, which were gathered with glee. From the tree came a call, "These will make such a nice pie, and I wish that these berries and I weren't up so high." "Be careful up there," shouted bear number 2. "But just know if you fall, I'll be here to catch you." So later the bears ate their pie and took pride, enjoying the warm feeling teamwork gave them inside. These are such neat little stories. I really am enjoying them. I think that they did a great job. And there are more stories, it looks like, in the luxury kit if you decide to go that way instead of this way. Okay, our last pages are where it gets a little bit more complicated, these 3 pages. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that the pink one goes here. The silver one, well, in your case, the gold one, your last page of gold goes here. And then the inside of your book, which we've made that page as well, will go here. So as you can see, there's where everything sits at. And in order for them all to fit, I had to do some finagling. So there's a little bit of fussy cutting that we have in a few spaces for these guys. So let's take a look and see if we can figure out which ones they are together. Are you guys still all there? Are you keeping up with me? Do you have any questions while I get ready to pull out this next set and do some cutting, because we will have cutting that has to occur with these. So if questions come up, just pop them on there really quick, and I will do my absolute best to remember to look up and double check that you guys, that any questions that you have are answered. Okay, so our last page is our little deer, and we're going to use 2 backgrounds, one being the bear that I said you're not going to even know that the bear will be there, and then this one. And this one, we have this deer that we're going to cut out, and we have this little deer that we're going to cut out. I can double check, but I'm pretty positive that that's just the regular deer and not the little white one. Yeah, see, this is our little white deer right here, and it's just too tall and didn't look quite right. And so I decided I'm just going to fussy cut both of these little deer out, and we're going to find the best possible. Make it the best. Okay. So we're going to go up and around. It is easy to accidentally get her tail, so just be aware that her little tail is right there at the back end. Okay, so I've cut this portion of her out, and then now I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to cut around a couple of the flowers so that we don't see them as much, and it will just kind of blend in with the ground around them. pretty low. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm going to cut that all the way out right there. So when you are done, I did not get fancy with this cutting, guys. I tried to make sure that I had a perspective that you would think that it's all one page, and being that I'm looking at the page and I'm having trouble trying to see where I cut and where I didn't cut, I obviously was able to meet my goal. And I kept just a tiny, tiny little bit around that edge of her eye. Let me show you here as soon as I'm done. There's just a tiny little bit that's right here by her eye that I gave it a little bit of the sky behind it so that you can see her eye. If you're not careful, you can cut that eye out, and then it does look kind of unique. And I think I am going to cut. Here's her tail. Just eyeballing it. Okay, and then let's see, what was it else that I did to hide the bear behind me? I think what I did was I took this and I took one of these rocks. I did such a good job at it. I don't know what I did. That's really bad, guys. Okay, let's see. What did I hide that with? I think it came from a tree from another picture. Okay, note to self, never let me do this far apart without some notes. Okay, and I think that we can make it work if we just if I just use a portion of this tree, and I think this is exactly what I did. Yes, it is. Okay, so I took this tree. This is the other part of the deer that I just cut out. And I took a section of the tree that is approximately right through here and cut off the extra little pieces. And if you want to let the bear have his little eyes poking out, I'm sure that it wouldn't be a problem. So let's see where it went from here. Went up and over. So I'm cutting this portion of it out and just going up and over the top. And just following the line of that piece, not keeping any of the sky or extra greenery in it. You don't want a leaf sticking out because then it will look like we're trying to hide something back there, which we are. Okay, so if you can't see him, and the reason why I'm doing this, let me hold the camera a little bit closer. So this page has a little bear on it. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to hide the little bear in order to let the focal point be about this. We don't want to have a child worry about the fact that the bear might get the little deer. So I took that extra piece, it's right here, out of the page that I just cut these deer out of. And I'm going to now take it and tuck it in and behind. And now I just have what looks to be like a little bit of a tree stump, grassy knoll. And you'd never know that a bear was there. So that's the first part. Like I said, this is the one that's going to take me the longest to do. Just because. And the other part that I learned about this is that I had to kind of move it up in order for it to work. So it doesn't quite keep all the borders there, just some of the borders. That part. And before I put that mommy deer down all the way, I'm going to glue this piece in behind. And I'm going to put it this direction. It's coming in and up and through. You'd never know that there was a bear back there, now would you? You only know because I said that there was a bear back there. Okay, so here's our little deer. They're all put together now. Okay. Our next one is this one. This is the next background piece. And what we're doing is we're going to cut out the story for the little deer for this one. It's the top of the page. There's my story. Boop, boop. There we go. So the story, this is the one story that's vertical in this entire thing. So this one says, deer sought to find the perfect present to show a good friend just how much they meant. And as the friend slept, Deer went to gather the others, the bluebird, the bee, and the two mousy brothers. Later at home, the friend began to stir, and as he awoke, he saw everyone there. I wanted to show you how much you mean to me, so I gathered everyone here to have a party. Celebrating friendships is what we should do when we find someone special, someone like you. Isn't that sweet? I mean, it's really sweet. And so I felt just a little tug at my heartstrings when I noticed that. We have when I read it, because I hadn't really read the story. I was more focused on making the book at the time. And all I knew was that this had to be a little bit better than the Aesop Fables, which was my original plan. But the Aesop Fables had a little bit of interesting things where I had forgotten with time that the fables have more connotation than what we would normally have for our kids nowadays. So I decided that I was going to switch and go to this instead because this is so sweet. But in order for this to fit in the book, I had to go through and put this across. And I'm kind of thinking now that I see it and what I have the ability to do here, I'm actually thinking that I may want to try switching this up a little bit. Yeah, that won't work right up there. That would work here. Okay. So I think I'm going to cut out the little mice and cut out some of the pretty flowers. And I don't know, I might find, and I'm not going to go to fussy cutting because there is quite a bit of it there. But let's see what I can do with this. Here's the bottom little bit. So I made a swoop like a swag. Cut it down a little bit here. And then I would need those Mousy Brothers won't work. I thought that I could put the Mousy Brothers in there too, but I think that I'm going to just not worry about that here. But I think I do want to keep some of the swag on this. And I think won't be able to get the bird in it, but I think that I can make it happen by cutting out the bird. And as you know, my trick for fussy cutting quickly and making it look like it's meant to be there is you just wiggle your scissors back and forth as you work, and instead of making straight lines, you just kind of play with it a little bit and shake it up. Literally. Gonna shake that little paper all the way up. Okay. This side, do the same thing. because I could never get all those little pieces through there like that if I didn't. So there. Now I like this better than my original piece. My original piece was straight on and you could really see the differences, but by putting these flowers in here and putting it up high, it makes it look intentional. And I can even scoot it a little bit over to do the butterfly, or I can kind of cover the butterfly a little bit and take the little bird and put the little bird here, which I didn't have in here before. Although that little butterfly looks sweet too, but maybe I can put both in. Okay. And guys, I know that it is 5:22. Hi, Adeline. How are you? I just wanted to remind you that how I do these is that I just keep filming and you can always come back and watch the rest of it later. It's 5:22. We knew that this was going to be a little tough to get all the way through in one fell swoop. So, so you are more than welcome to go ahead and head on out at 5:30, 5:45, whenever you feel like you need to. And then we will, excuse me, we will be able to, you can come back in and watch it at a later time. It doesn't have to all be tonight because I know that there are those of you on the East Coast. If you're wanting to stay up and visit and see it through, I appreciate that. But I want to make sure that you know that you don't have to, or that I would feel sad if you didn't, because I get it. I get tired too. Okay, so I like the butterfly on my flower. It actually blended quite nicely with the background. Look, isn't that great? It just totally blended out. Of course, it's got a little bit of glue on it right now. Look at that. So, got to push this bottom section down, it looks like. And one of these. Little birdie. Okay, so there's that one. All right, so now we have page 1, page 2, and then we'll have a third page that comes out the bottom section. And how we did that, or how I did that, was that I cut my little bunny out and I cut my little cart out and then I put it on a background paper. And so that page we have not cut out yet. And I think this time around, let me see. That's pretty dark. I think I want to keep it lighter and not so heavy. I think I like that. It blends with the silver pretty nicely. and puts the focus on and it's kind of little trees, and it will keep it looking very woodsy. Let's see. I want him to stay the same size as our pages. So we can use this as our filler. I think we should make it at the 7 7/8 long. And I just need to measure up the height of this. It is 3 5/8. So let's put it on in here. Three and 5/8. Dun 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 dun. What about there? Can always cut off more. Can't give it more after the fact. So I gave it a little bit of extra just in case. And then we need to cut this at 7 7/8. Okay. That's the last little bit of cutting that needs to happen. And so we'll put that one down here on our page. So this is my 3-piece page for this section. So this is what it's going to look like when it's done. So that kind of really lends to it quite a bit and doesn't make it quite so overwhelming. I think 7 7/8 we're going to have to cut a couple of our pages because I think I cut too big. Okay. I also think that I got that paper kind of a little bit messy. Okay. Just trying to hold it down. Seven 3/4 might have been the right number. It's a very strong possibility. Okay, so we'll work on our back paper first. If you look, I didn't put it all the way back, and there's a reason for that. So I'm going to show you here in just a few minutes. Nope, I take that back. I'm going to go ahead and put it all the way to the end. Okay. It decided that it wanted to move on me. Let's take care of that. Got to cut it off of both sides now. Okay. This one you'll see has, it's all the way across. So any of the pages that are gold are going to go all the way across. Any of the other ones that are colored, I gave it that 1/4 inch piece to help it flow a little bit better. Okay, so here's our back page. I think I just moved all of my papers out of the book. Of course I did. Okay, let's go back here. All right, so I love this page. This is going to be perfect, but I do want it, I think I want it a little bit. Definitely want it a little bit shorter. So I think I'm right. I think that 7 3/4 is going to be a better. It's going to be a better size. Yep, I'm going to have to be here for a little bit longer just because of the time that it takes to do pieces of art. I knew that we would be pushing on time.
Bob was concerned about you.
Oh, was he?
Yep. So he asked me to go check.
So that must mean that he's feeling pretty good.
Yeah, seems
and alert. That's good to hear.
he's doing pretty good.
Okay, gonna glue my little piece right on there. Can definitely see where I'm going to have to do a little bit of cutting to even out the pages. Just because when you fold paper, it doesn't always angle quite right, does it? All right, so now I have this bottom paper, and what I did here was I just took and I cut out my little bunny, and I cut out the little cart, and I put them both right like that on the piece of paper. So it looks really super cute. It's got the white all the way around, so it's not a lot of really true major fussy cutting. It goes through pretty easily. And in fact, when I'm looking at this, I can cut out the mousy friends that it talks about in the story and put it on the other side of the cart. So maybe that is exactly what I'm going to do with it. I'm not going to cut them out because you don't want to sit here and watch me cut them out. I can just point to this piece of paper and say, see, I cut this bunny out and I cut this card out, and I think I'm going to put my mice right here on the side because they're faced the same direction. So maybe they could be leading the party band, right? So I think that that would be a fun way to make that go. Okay, so here's my piece. This is where I would put it. Here's the next page that we're going to be moving on to. I am going to have to do some touch up on that, though, I can tell. So let me see. Several of my pages fell out, and I think one of them was this. Yep, sure enough, 7 7/8 was the measurement of the actual book. So we'll have to do it more like 7 3/4. don't think that this is put in right. I think it popped off the rail. Bear with me here, guys. There we go. It did. It popped off the rail. Tore my paper just a little bit. The answer to that is it will just be a little bit smaller now. Yes, we are staying day and night with Bob while Debbie and Bryce are taking some time off when they do their once a month thing together. Normally, that's the reason why I teach class on Thursdays. And so anyways, we thought that it would be nice because the kids, Lauren is taking a major test on Monday, and this is her last of her tests that she has to take for the government in order to get her accounting I'm going to botch it, so I'm just not even going to claim that I know what the degree is in this moment. But she will be passing that test. I know she will. And so I didn't want her having to be in a position where she wasn't getting good sleep beforehand. So I said, let me help, because Jordan has her husband back at home with her for a few days. Well, excuse me, not a few days. Has her husband back for a while. And he came home about, I think it was about a week ago. Okay. So because of that, I just said they thought that they were going to have to stay home because they didn't see how it was going to work. And I said, it's okay. James is on vacation right now. We're supposed to be getting things done around our house, but this seemed more important than that. So we said, we will do it. Okay. Alrighty. So when I cut this one, I'm not cutting it deep enough, obviously. So I'm going to cut some off of the top. Right above the butterfly wing is where it looks like I'm going to have to get it. Okay, so here's right above the little butterfly wing on this side. And since it's on the paper, that's a good guide to come away with. And then on the bottom, well, let's just see. On the bottom, we need to take approximately this amount. That makes it easy, doesn't it? Just eyeball it, guys. Just eyeball it. You'll see when you're looking, because it's the same thing as when you're layering a card. We're just basically making a big fancy card, right? So that goes right on here, like so. And there's definitely a piece of repair that we'll have to do with this one. On the page, because they got glued together, and so I had to pull them apart a little bit. So I'm going to have one spot that's not going to work quite as well. Okay, then we have our deer that goes on the silver, but we have to cut off sections. So you cut at the top right where the deer's ear is touching. So wherever that bigger deer is, just go ahead and cut. And then we have smudge that we can take off. So that's good. I do like having the little floral border sitting up here. It just makes that whole idea of a celebration that much sweeter. Okay, looks like I shorted that should say I shorted the cutting. I was worried about how much I was cutting off, but obviously it needed to be a little bit more. Let's see. There we go. Bet you this will work now. Yep, perfect. Okay. So when they're on like this, we want to make sure that for each page you go through and you make sure that your page 1 and your page 2 match each other. So then that way it looks more like a professional, not me, did it. So if you want to, I should say, make sure that you have everything lined up. You can always use a ruler. I just eyeballed because that's exactly what the person that's going to read your book is going to be doing. They're not going to be noticing, oh, this is off by a whole 1/16 of an inch. Good night, Thelma. All right, this was the perfect time to remind you guys. I know that we usually end between 5:45 and 6 o'clock, but I'm just going to keep working until it's done. This does take a little bit of time. So, yes, Debbie has said now a few different times that it's more than what she ever thought somebody would do. So, and she said, are you sure? She just kept asking me, are you sure that you want to do this? Are you sure? Yes, I promise we're okay. Between my husband being a nurse for hospice and the fact that I've been one type of a caregiver or more my whole career life, I figure we can do it. Okay. So what I'm going to tell you is, just because we're not, well, I'm going to go through and I'm going to do the one thing first before I do anything more. And that is because I want to make sure that any of you that need to ask any questions have me and my attention here with you in the moment. Because we're going to need to talk about how you make your handle and how you create it to pull this out. So, all right. So at this point, this is just our pack that's on the inside. So here's our one page with book and papers. So this is basically what it will look like inside, right? And so then we're going to go through and we're going to go for each section. And again, here's our papers. You don't need to see me do each one of these. You guys know how to do that part, and you guys can figure that out, I know. So that's our dear one. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to re-glue that little section because it's a little short. Okay, so these are all of our pages. So how do you make the whole thing work? Right now, this is just the inside that has that loose, the thin portion, and our actual book is floating around here somewhere. So cut off any extra pages that are sticking out. There we go. So nice and neat, nice and pretty. And then I need to find my cover. Here it is. So from here, here's our cover piece. And see how by cutting that down to that 7 3/4, we're having the same kind of piece through and through. In fact, it actually looks like here that this would just fold right up against it and be the second piece. So those lined up really nicely and really well. So let's go to our mechanism and talk about how that works. So any of your extra pieces that you have of your silver, you should not have thrown away, because as you know, I use every scrap. Oh, and I did want to show you, we have this page and this page that are completely not touched yet. Words and sentiments and saying that you would have in your piece. So all of these pieces that are extra that come in your kit, that's what you get on top of this. So I think if I counted right, I think that I remember that when I counted, there was approximately 10, might be a little bit under that. I don't want to say 10. Let me just quickly count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you have your little cutouts. So there's 8 full pages that you could make cards with from our little book sets. So just so that you know, and then you have a leftover cutout pieces from this page as well, because you'll have the deer still and the butterflies. So, okay. So what you got to do, the last part, this is very important. You have to have your pieces be able to move forward and backward in your book. So your book, you're going to fold it up. So it's a book at this point, right? Here's our book. And we need to be able to attach it. So how does that work if we're going to turn it and move it? And how does that mechanism work? Well, in order to hold the book, you're literally holding the book by putting in a strip of paper. So it goes under your last piece right here. And it literally just kind of hides up and underneath. So what you have to do though is that this is too short. So any of these short pieces, they won't work. You have to use a length. So you have to use your last page in this particular case, because I didn't do all the math ahead of time for you. So what you want to do is, our goal is that we're taking this bottom piece here, and right under here is your mechanism of how this holds it all down. Okay, if you look here, boom, 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 boom. I fiddled with it enough. If you look here, see, this isn't glued to the back. Don't glue it to the back, because if you do, then you won't be able to get to the book, other than like any other book that you just have the pages for. But the whole trick is this mechanism that we're going to put in right now. So you want a section of length, and you want it to be sturdy enough to be able to hold this amount of stuff. So I made mine at, I think it was 1.5 inches. Let me just double check that, because I didn't. So let me just make sure, but I'm pretty positive it's 1.5. Yep, 1.5. I should have better faith in my memory sometimes. Okay, so you'll want your piece to be 1.5 inches. And you're going to want your scoreboard back because you're going to want, this should be hiding behind your bottom page. So if your bottom page is 7 3/4, you want this to only be 7 3/4. So we want it to sit to about here. So look at how well that works for us. If we do it here, then that's going to be, it should end up being the same. So here's 7 3/4 at this bend. And then here's 7 3/4 at this bend. See what I did? I put them both equally in between, and then I measured them to 7 3/4, and then flipped it and measured this end 7 by 7 3/4. So because of the way the board works, that's what you're measuring to. But you can also do it the other way. But I didn't have this measurement until just now. So 2 inches in on one side and not quite 2 inches in on the other. So let's see. I might have jumped the gun here a little bit, but I don't think so. I think we're good. So this oh yes, look at that. That's just lovely. Okay. So you're going to take it and you're going to glue the portion of it right here to the bottom of your page. Let's make sure that this page is going to fit through all right. Nope, it won't. That's probably where this longer side made a error. A little shy of 2 inches on this side. So we'll try it here and see if that gives us our space that we need. And if not, then I have to probably start it again. So if I put it on the bottom of this and I have my last page, this is how I know whether it's going to work or not work. If you can wrap it around here and your page can move, then you're doing pretty good. But this is still awful snug. So I think we're going to go ahead and just score it out on this side again. And hopefully between both sides, we'll have a little bit more wiggle room. And this is all hidden. So if you make a mistake like I did 4 or 5 times there, it's okay. You can totally come back in and run some extra. So now here's my last page. Wrap it around. Oh, look, it has plenty of space now. Okay. So now the biggest catch is that we don't want the bottom page to be, we don't want this part to be seen. So yes, we do have to have this fit in here, but what we don't want is we don't want it to be so blatant to this. So as you can see right here, I am pretty close. I don't think that I can get any closer than that. So what you're going to do is you're just looking to see, are my sides fitting right under here? And do you see them very much on top? And no, the answer is no, you don't. So I am amazed at how this works. I fiddled with it quite a bit to get it to this point, but I still am amazed at how this thing works. So what your goal is that when you have your book piece here, what you're doing is you're gluing it to the back of your book. So it should sit right here on the back of your book, just like this. But in order to make sure that your paper fit, that's what we were testing. So I'm going to show you again. Let's tuck it all back in and maybe you can see it better that way. Okay, so it goes on the back of your board, right? And let's see. See it right there? You can just barely see it, but you can see the tab. It's right there. And so what you're doing is you're gluing the backs to back here, and then you're letting the book is held in by this piece, and try and get it really close to the end. Don't be afraid of it being too close, because when you open it up, you'll never see the mechanism itself. The main reason why I use this instead of using a piece of chipboard or another piece of paper, I want it to blend in. I don't want to see it at all. That's really my goal. I don't want to see this. It's supposed to be just doing its work, right? Doing its job. So give it a good extra amount of glue. I would say about 1/8 of an inch is about perfect. Okay. So you're then going to take and you're going to slide this into this side so that we've got our pages. Come on, do what you're supposed to. I didn't glue it right. Do what you're supposed to. Behave. Okay. There we go. Let's try that. Going to slide that book piece in. The very bottom page, slide it on in. Okay, and now you're going to glue it to the back of this page. So you can see why I worked from the back of the book and why I'm doing this piece, because this is what really matters. This is all the mechanism. And for you to just sit and see me watch, and you had to just sit and watch me gluing a whole bunch of stuff, you don't want to do that. I wanted to show you the tricks, read you the book, and see, and you could see how wonderful it can be. So from right here, this is where the book is going to normally sit, in the back here. And this is the part that you have to glue in. So we're going to glue it all the way to the very end of that piece of paper. We want it to stay really well. Let me make sure that I've got everything right. Yep, very end of the paper. So here's my glue. Here it goes. Make sure that that is really well attached. Now, if you go and, sorry guys, I had to see where I was at. So here I've put the bottom page right there on the gluing it to the top of the mechanism. And it's going to have to dry for a little bit. But we can still keep working even if it does have to dry for a little bit, because we've got a really cool piece of for you to see. So how our pull works is that it just literally, if you were to move all of your pages, see it slowly come out right there. So what we're doing now is we're going to create the pull with that one. Okay. And then it will go back and forth. I don't have to worry about that much, that portion of it for the glue. See, look, isn't that great? It just works so easily. But we want to be able to see the pull. We want to be able to know that there is a pull, because otherwise they're going to turn the book. And I watched how Debbie tried to turn the book, and it just doesn't work as smoothly to turn the book if you don't push and pull from here. And like I said, it will keep your pictures really nice and crisp, and it won't do the damage that maybe something else might. So let's see here. Let's take this, and here is our pool. And you're going to go, what? But it really is. It's going to be our pool. And you should have something at home, and I'm just going to guess as a crafter that there is something that you have at home. I didn't put it into any of the kit pieces, but somebody has a shape of something that they like. I used this shape. This is my shape that I used right there. And so I created just a little edging piece. And I think that in reality, it may work better. If the outside looked more like a pool, but a pull tab. But I found that this was probably the best way to do it. So, or at least a way that it would look nice. That little. Let me get it underneath the right section. There you go. See the little scalloped edge? I really felt like that was a good way to do it. So I'm going to stick to what I did and do the same thing all over again. Okay, so this is an extra piece off of our item, off of our book when we were cutting it. This is just, it was one of the leftovers, just like other things that were leftovers. And so you want it to be sturdy enough to be able to handle this little piece. It's approximately 1.5 inches. We have to make that as an extension in order to make it go where we need it to. So that it will stick out enough that we can pull it without having to dig. So let me, yep, 1.5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to take and cut my 1.5 inches. Okay, we'll need both of them. The bottom piece will be shorter, and that's okay, because we just want it to be able to attach to this bottom piece so that we have a pull. So what I did was this. I took and I glued these two pieces together. Now you could make a bigger pool if you wanted to, and then maybe you could get something that stuck out a lot more. But the more that it sticks out, the more you'll notice it when you close the book all the way. So that's the other catch to this. Which way do I want it to work? So I'm just going to glue my two pieces together. And then I'm going to take the top piece and glue it onto that silver piece so that it gives me enough of what I need. And on the back, you can see that it ends up right against that base. See how nice that is? So it works really nice and smoothly with what you've got going on in the front. And it fits right into this little section so that it looks smooth and whole, like it's all one piece. And as soon as I do the last little trick, you won't even notice that it's not all one piece. But that just gives us that extra extension for the book. You could leave your extension out to begin with. I mean, you could cut a bigger page and put it a little bit closer in. But let me restate that because I didn't state it right. If you want to, you can build this with an extra piece that extends it on out for you already with the card. But I felt like it needed an extra bit of reinforcement because this is where you're going from, right? This is where all your push and pull is coming from. You can even make your back end piece just as snug if you want to. You could make them both the same length of 1.5, and you would be able to have a little bit of a thicker pull if you know that somebody that is going to use it is going to be a little bit rougher with it. So based on their age, or if you just want to give this to a friend, I mean, can you imagine something like this to one of your friends? And it's a sweet little story. It's not just made for kids. I realize that that's the reason why I'm making them, but that doesn't mean that that you shouldn't be able to completely enjoy it as an adult. And then see, that little pull goes this far in. So from there, that's why I cut my little divots in, and these little divots was because I wanted it to kind of tuck in and back a little bit more. In fact, you could just make literally a little pool right through here, a little pull tab based on the print that's sitting on it. So there's lots of different ways to end off that piece. And it really becomes your choice. What do you want to do with it? And then what I did was in order to reinforce it a little bit more, I just took and put another little strip right on top so that it kind of butted against and it didn't completely disappear into the book. So that, I think, becomes totally about what you like and what you don't like. So this is what you have. You've got your pages. Imagine them all with the goodies on them, because I don't think that you need me to show you these parts. And then just remember, they're all here. This is your finalized piece. I think that I made a little bit of a mistake here, and I should have cut my pink a little bit further. That was totally my fault. I didn't realize that they were glued together when I cut it. So I'm going to have to go back in and take and extend out that pink. But it is still the exact same thing. You can see where I'm heading with it. You've got your pictures for each page as it flips through. Here's your one page, here's the other. So you can see exactly that it's going to look exactly like the other book by the time that you glue all your pages in. And that's really where you're at this moment in time, is at where the pages are. On the top, let's just talk about the top for a minute, shall we? Okay, so here's my little handle. I'm going to push it in, and mine goes in a little bit further, but it tries to catch on the back end back here, and so I am very happy that I made that extra little bit. So you may want to fiddle with your handle a little bit more. That's the one that I came up with, and that's why I didn't do the pattern in the book. I mean, in your kit, was because I think that it should sit out about there. And that's what I've made you by doing it this way. So I've made you the extra piece that you can create your own handle with. Okay, on the front, this literally is your page, your piece of paper that looks like this. And I just tucked it on in there. Mine says special birthday wishes. I used one of the butterflies in the cutout to put it on this butterfly because it's on one of the cutout pages. And then I just put a grouping of 3 flowers on each side. You have these in your kit, and you'll end up with, you have these particular ones in your kit, and you will end up with these 3 flowers left and one of, I think it's one of the bigger ones. I had it with me. Oh, I probably left it in my bag. So let's see. We've got 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, and I think the other one is hiding down in here a little bit. Yep, 2, and then you have a big rose and a big or peony kind of a shape. So 2 of those. So you have this smaller piece of rose, and then you have these 3 that will be extras. So you can use them and put them on your cards that you will have left over to make with these. I recommend that if you want to try it and keep it in the same kind of line of what you're doing here, I would recommend either grabbing the Hunkydory. It's our old, it came from our old set from last year, but we still have some of it in stock. And it's Clockwork. It's the Clockwork Emporium. You can use some of it with your Arcadia animals that we just did because it's got gears and watches, and then these keys, and then just some kind of almost burnished gold pieces in this. And you end up with 16 card sheets, 4 of each design. So you can use these for your cards. And then we have Craft Perfect A2, and I think we even have them in A6 to be able to make little cards with these that would be really sweet. And so I encourage you to do something along those lines if you want to stick with that theme, or you can totally take off and do your own theme with your own cardstock that you have at home already. Here is what I would do if I'm going to make this for not a 3-year-old. I am going to want to go through, and with this one, since it's not for my 3-year-old, I'm going to go through and I'm going to just attach little corners. I think that it will enrich it against that. It will also help on these pages that don't have the silver and tie it all in. You, of course, would use your gold because that's what you got was gold. And then you can just create your border and corner. I wouldn't do your border and corners on these. I would just do the corners. But on these, look at that. Wouldn't that be beautiful right there like that? So let me show you. Since I'm going to be making this a little bit longer, I better cut it a little bit longer. You could put them on the story page, or you can even put them on the outside of your, see, I had to make it a little longer since I've got to get that length in the pink. But look, it will just border your pretty little pages, and it will just blend it right in with the others. So you would want to order these in gold. This is 6585. I believe that these are some of they're the duties, and I think that we have several of them. This is also a way to go that I absolutely love how these borders and corners went. This is from Find It Trading, and it's CD3061. So these have a bigger corner or a smaller corner. You've got 3 different choices in borders. This is probably where I would go. I just grabbed something that Debbie had here at her desk, and this happened to be what she had in silver. So go through and make some choices. You can do something as fun and or as serious as you want, and it will make somebody's day to get a book like this. And it will take you about 3 hours, basically, is going to be my guess. So thank you so much. It's 4 hours. Yes, because it's been 2 hours and 17 minutes for the class. So I just have to finish gluing in the really easy stuff now, is just gluing in these little bits and pieces. And so they just turn out so pretty. You can see exactly where that's heading. Like I said, we are sold out of these Prima natural flowers. Thank you very much, Irene. I appreciate it. Yes, thumbs up. Make some comments as well, please, after you refresh when we hang up in the stream. But look, aren't those going to be so pretty? These are the new fairy garden flowers from Little Birdie that we just got in, because this is going to do the trick and make it look just as pretty as this one. And what I'll do is that I'll put a couple of extra pictures up in our class, in our live stream kits, online pictures, where you can see the pictures now of the books. And by the way, I did put those pictures in there very specifically so that you could see which pages went where, and you can use that as your guide, and there'll be pictures that aren't moving. So you can just take a look. When you get to this point, it's all just about making sure that your pages get glued in the way that you want them to. So you can make as many of these in as many different ways as you want. If you buy a little book ever, this is a great way to use a little book up, and you might find that one has more of a vertical than horizontal with something else that you may have, and you can put beautiful sayings and beautiful things on the top for somebody. So this idea can go with so many different things. You can't believe how much you can use these in different ways. So thank you so much, guys, for joining me this evening. I am going to head on out, and I've got some food to make sure that I've got for Bob and my husband. And so unless my husband is in there cooking up something, but he is unlike Bryce, and he knows just a few things. So anyways, thank you so much, and I hope that you have a great rest of your evening, and I will post those pictures and the actual measurements for each of the cuts that you're going to make to put in the pages, and the background picture pages as well. I know I kind of ran through them pretty quickly as I was doing them. So thank you so much, and have a good night. Give thumbs up and make some comments. Thank you.